Here's why your $1,000 budget on Google Ads is not helping your heavy-duty repair shop. Hey guys, my name's Corey. I'm the founder here of Repair Lift Marketing. We specialize in helping heavy-duty shops create more work through breakdown accounts and also through commercial fleet accounts via online marketing. One of the most common situations we hear every single day is, oh, I'm spending $1,000 on Google. Either I'm not getting any ROI for it, or I think I'm just wasting my money, or it's working a little bit, but it's not really making a difference. It's nothing groundbreaking, etc., etc. Today, I'd like to show you why, if you know about marketing and you know about this industry, that is actually very obvious that would happen. But I can obviously understand why, if you are not in the know about marketing, especially in the heavy duty diesel space, you may think that is going to work. So I'm going to show you why it won't work and really where you need to be able to generate significant returns from your Google Ads account for your heavy duty shop. So check it out. First of all, before we go any further, I just want to make sure everyone knows what we're talking about here. I'm just going to show you the type of advertising we're talking about real quick. When we go on Google, we type something along the lines of roadside assistance near me, Freightliner Cascadia. I threw that in there because Cascadia is one of the most popular trucks that our clients get calls about every day. But it's not just over the road trucks. Like a guy who has a dump truck broken down on a construction site is going to do the same thing. We saw a call come in from an oil rig where they needed an on-site diesel mechanic because the rig was down. So it's the same situation, and this happens in almost every market every single day. Obviously, in higher volume areas, there's much more search volume. But the point is that this is how we're connecting the dots here between the person who needs help and the shop. When you land on Google here, your first four things you're going to see are sponsored ad. Everything below that, Google is kind of just picking and choosing through its robots and algorithms what it's going to show, what it thinks is relevant. Sponsored and pay per click is actually what it's called, is great because we actually get control over what Google is showing. Obviously, we have to pay for it, but we're not leaving it up to Google to decide, hey, are we going to show this guy or this guy or this guy? So look, we have 4 people bidding on here, right? Obviously, this guy's bidding the most. That's why he is the highest position. And then these people are bidding less, but they're still on the first page, right? So you don't always need to be this guy up here. You can be this guy or this guy. But the point is you want to be one of these few people when someone in your area searches something along these lines that is relevant to the service that you guys offer. So the way that this works is these guys are not actually paying unless I click on these ads. So they'll have a daily budget. I'm not going to click on the ad, and they'll only be charged when someone clicks on the ad. Keep in mind, the majority of these searches are not guys like me, marketing agencies doing this. It's mostly people who actually need service. And people who need service right away often are going to be paying the same day. Well, me, if it's my shop, I'm not letting a new customer come in here and get net terms. Especially if it's a breakdown customer. That's the nuts and bolts of this and how this marketing works. So I'm going to show you kind of why $1,000 doesn't work and what you got to be at to really see a result. I got a little table here that's going to show you a math equation of essentially how this all plays out. So you have your budget here. One thing I should mention as well is that this is an auction here. The way that it works is each keyword's going to have its own auction. So a used tire click may only cost a couple bucks, whereas something that specifically mentions a head gasket in a heavy duty piece of equipment might be significantly more. And everything in between, right? Everything has their own cost, each keyword. But what we do is we look at average. What a lot of marketing agencies, people who don't know, will tell you is like $2, $3 cost per click, stuff like that. In heavy duty, that's not the case. You may be able to get a few clicks. You may be able to get bottom of the barrel traffic. But if you want to be getting the types of calls that you want, cost per clicks are going to be anywhere from like 8 to like maybe $20. It really does depend on the level of competition and what you're bidding for. So let's just put in 8 here. But what this is showing us is if we put in a $1,000 budget, we're getting an average cost per click of $8. Okay, now that's click. That's not a call. That's not a real lead. A percentage of those clicks are going to call and are going to be a real lead. And that's what we're going to be looking for here, which is our cost per lead, right? The way we get that is a certain percentage of these $8 clicks are going to actually call. So I have a 20% conversion rate in here. So 5 people click, 1 of them calls. That gives us a $40 cost per lead, meaning that we can get 25 leads for our $1,000 budget. 25. That's less than 1 per day. Now, if you're closing at 20% and your average ticket value is $800, you're getting 5 customers, which is about $4,000 in revenue. which is still a good ROI. It's a 4x ROI, but like, let's be real here. If your heavy duty shop is swinging by $4,000, are we really making a difference? My guess is no. And the other problem is that a lot of agencies will not position it this way, where you spend 1,000, you get 4,000. So people will go in and they'll be expecting they're going to spend $1,000 and they're going to get 10, 20 grand back. And that's just not the case, especially when you get into a very competitive area, like you're in a big city, like Chicago, for example. This $8 click is going to be like $15 click. So now your 1,000 bucks is getting you 2,100. So now keep in mind, there's other things we can do here. Like at a $15 cost per click, we're going to be wanting to get a minimum of a 30% conversion ratio, bringing us down to a $50 cost per lead. This up here is all stuff that your marketing agency or your marketing team is going to be focused on. And then down here, the closing rate, average ticket, etc., is going to be on the service manager and the shop owner. Now let's drop this cost per click down to something a little bit more common. So let's just say 10 bucks. Let's jump our budget up to 3,000. Oh, so before we do, just at a $10 cost per click, we're getting about 1 lead per day. The challenge with this is you're not getting enough reps. Your sales team is not getting enough at bats. It's like if you watch football, they have 4 downs. They don't have 1 down, right? They don't say, hey, Joe Burrow, go out and throw 100% of passes, because that's obviously not going to happen. And it's the same thing here. That's why these little tiny budgets don't work, because the cost per click, meaning the cost per lead, is going to be anywhere from like 25 to 50 bucks. So if you're spending less than $100 a day, you're not even getting, more than 2 to 4 at bats, which is what you need. You need 2 to 4 at bats. That way, one of those calls is junk. 3 of them are decent. One of the guys doesn't have any money. Another guy is on the fence, and then you close one of them up, you're still more than profitable. Then you close that guy in the fence, you have 2, now you're making obviously substantial returns. So watch this. I'm going to jump this budget up to 3K. Our cost per click is going to stay at 10 bucks, 30% conversion ratio, meaning we're now getting 3 leads per day on average at a 20% closing ratio, meaning we're getting 18 customers and 14,400, which is almost a 5x ROI. At a 5x ROI after parts, I'm probably not thrilled here. I'd like to see the average ticket value up closer to 1,200, right? Because now you can see, wow, we're making big money here. And I'd like to see the close rate ideally at 30, let's say 25%. Now we're talking about almost a 10x return here. But you're not going to get the average ticket value, and you're not going to get the closing rate dialed in if you are only getting 1 at bat per day, which is what you're going to get for about $1,000. So that's why here at RepairLift, we will only work with a minimum budget of $100 a day, because that gives us enough juice to actually make something happen for you. So your service manager has at bats and you can actually win good jobs. Also, we need budget to optimize Google properly and quickly. And you want this to really generate returns within the first couple of weeks, not, within months on end. So if you're out there and you're trying to do this, with $1,000 budget in the heavy duty space, I think that you should just jack it up to 3K minimum, assuming that you have the rest of the things in place and you know what you're doing. If you don't know what you're doing, you can very easily obviously burn all of this money. So make sure you're working with a professional, or you take some courses or something like that. But this is why, just by coming in at a $3,000 budget, you give yourself substantially more opportunity to make a memorable increase in the business. And then it makes sense when you can obviously see these returns to come up here and say, hey, well, I want to spend 9,000. Oh, well, Corey, at 9,000, my cost per click went up to 15 and my ROI is only down at 6. Yeah, but you're still getting 54 grand out of it. And this isn't uncommon. A lot of people reach out to us. They start with 3 grand or 6 grand, and sooner or later they're spending 15, 20, even up to 40,000 in some situations with us every single month. Hopefully this was helpful. If you need any help with your marketing strategy, just check out our content. We have a bunch of stuff in there. If you want somebody to actually come in and do this for you, you can also reach out to us. Thanks for tuning in today, and looking forward to seeing you in the next one.